This is the Bar Steward's Enquiry.
You're talking absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
In what way?
You were an underachiever in life. I saved your bacon one time. You were gone.
You handled that well. I couldn't save you. But you did the right thing.
Well, that's why you don't know anything about racing, John.
I didn't say I do.
Right?
I'm saying that...
What have you contributed to racing? You're one of these take-out merchants. Take out all you can.
And a very warm welcome to the Bar Stewards Enquiry Super Saturday podcast. My name's Lee Keys of systembet.co.uk, and with me tonight are John Lang of John Joe's Blogspot and a very special guest this evening. It's Bickley14 of Twitter, Andy Richmond. A lot of you will have known Andy from his Racing TV days. Very warm welcome to you, Andy.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. I feel quite honoured to be on, actually. I'm not sure if the bar, probably right with the bar epithet. I should probably think that. I'll probably come that way now. Yeah, it's Super Saturday. Let's hope it is Super Saturday.
The standards soon drop throughout the show as the gin kicks in and John has a few expletives to say about certain things. The pleasantries soon drop off. But no, it's great to have you on, and I'm sure you'll help with the content for this very, very busy day indeed. Right, gents, just a few questions before we get kicked off, because it is extremely busy. There's only 3, which is quite pleasant. Usually we get about 14, and we get onto the tips after about an hour. The first one, Lorne Malvo, who's a contributor to the show, he wants to know, especially from you two guys, is Baid the real deal? Start with you, Andy. What do you think to Baid?
I was pretty impressed with his run yesterday, especially the way he came from off the pace. He's obviously still a work in progress. And I just wonder if Mr. Haggis has got his shagging. Well, did he have his shagging shirt on yesterday? Because he must be looking at it. From what I've read and what he said, he's going to sort of take it easy with him. And I don't think we're going to get the Palace Pier and poetic bust up, are we? No. I don't think we're going to get that just yet. We may get it in time. I'd be interested to see him take him on. I think he's going to take it softly with him. But I was impressed yesterday with the way he dealt with 4 reasonable types. But you couldn't help but be visually impressed by him. Don't know what John thinks.
Go, John.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to welcome Andy and congratulate him on possibly committing career Harry Carey. Joining us, on it.
Yeah, that's it.
Welcome.
Career went years ago, John. I'll tell you what, I'm 60 this year. I don't think I'm worried about career prospects anymore. You couldn't help but be impressed with that, could you? Really impressive performance. I would say he probably looks as though he's going to take it softly. Might see him in the QE too. You never know. Shadwell might persuade him to crack on a bit and have a go at the Sussex. It'd be nice to think he would, but my gut feeling is we'll probably see him clash with something a bit tasty in the QE too. Maybe. I think he's good though.
Yeah, I mean, I think the times come back more or less replicating what he's done before, which suggests that the opposition, which did look very tasty beforehand, have probably run a shade below par. It comes out about anywhere between 112 and 115, the performance, which is obviously, if you look at the Bear ratings and obviously Palace Pier, he's got some way to go to get to that level as his poetic flair. But for me, there's something about him visually I like. I think he's got a far more electric turn of foot than, say, Palace Pier. Somebody will probably belittle me on that on sectionals, but he visually looks like he's just got that more boot to get him out of trouble at any point than, say, Palace Pier, who for me didn't look impressive at all in the Queen Anne. Looked very laborious. And just did what he had to, which is probably his style. But he's fascinating when they match. But is he the real deal? Yes, he's a genuine stakes horse, and I think Willie will probably take it easy with him. Probably maybe Ascot Celebration Mile, at the end of August, is it? Or is it Goodwood? I think it's Ascot, I'm not sure. Ascot, Goodwood, end of August. And then probably go to Group 1s probably in the autumn. Yeah, good question. Right, Ian Davis has been on, and obviously R.I.P. Newbury, folks. This is leaving the safe haven of racing TV for the bluster of Sky Sports Racing. Ian Davis says BHA should have its own media rights monopoly racing channel, own data rights monopoly tote, own monopoly betting exchange, still none out of the three. Not a chin in sight, but plenty of old school ties isn't bad. Panel's views, he says. We'll start with you, John, on this.
Do you know, I used to like Newbury. I did. The impressive Tash was in charge. Everything was fine and dandy. Going forecast was pretty accurate. And then Panorama happened. And he got Ginger by the scruff of the neck, frog marched him off the track. Ignored Carson, telling Bradders he couldn't save him and all this. The next thing, he goes and shaves the Tash off, and it was like Samson with getting his hair cut. The going forecast went to shit. Everything just started taking a nosedive at Newbury, and this is the latest in a series of catastrophes, really, at the place. It was such a good track, and now we're going to have fuzzy pictures that might as well be in sepia, and there's going to be a 45-minute delay on most of them as well. So, good-looking running punters. There's another one with a line spell. Yeah.
Andy, your views on this?
Well, probably along the lines of John's, maybe not in such colourful language, but yeah, I mean, for someone who plays in running a lot like I do, it's another bit of a death knell. We have got three Ladbrokes festivals, you and I would still call it the Hennessy, left on a decent channel at least. But it is like a lot of tracks. There's a lot of tracks around. I won't name any at the moment, but it just seems to be the quality just seems to be dipping away a little bit. And I can't believe it was a real shock, actually, because you think they were one of the sort of founding fathers almost of what was, what was the forerunner of RTVR UK. And I can't believe it. I mean, if you look at their balance sheet, you cannot not believe that it's something to do with cash here. Of course, since then, we've had the announcement that all the other 33 race courses are staying with RTV and RMG for the foreseeable until, was it 2029? So that is good news. But I mean, the pictures on Sky Sports Radio, John's right there. I mean, they are as much use as a chocolate teapot, aren't they? I mean, that's when they're not missed the start because you've got an incontinence ad running or something like that. Or something, over 60s pensions or something like that. I suppose I'm in the right target audience now. But, I mean, they do miss an awful lot. And the ads get on my tits, to be honest with you. Yeah. It's a backward and retrograde step. But race courses, because of the position they are in with money these days, I think they've seen the pound signs here and taken them.
Yeah, I kind of miss the Chums. I kind of miss the Chums adverts at the races because everyone used to comment after new Chums, after
nothing wrong with the Chums. Nothing wrong with the Chums catalogue there.
Yeah, I used to the Chums were my favourite ads, really. Yeah, the new pair of Chums needed after you've just scraped them on a 3s on bet or something. Yeah.
I'll send you the latest catalogue.
Yeah, I used to like that. But yeah, like you say, guys, for me, it's.
I mean, to answer Ian's question, a little bit, other bits in that. Yes, we all need, we could do with an exchange, blah de blah, but we're not going to get it. That's a utopian ideal, and we're just never going to get it. That ship has sailed years and years and years ago. And I think Ian wrote in the other week and said, or one of our other regular listeners, and said very much that what is good at the moment, and you do fear for the product a little bit, and I share John's fears with the BHA. I genuinely despair about some of the people there at the moment.
It's not looking good for sure. I mean, like you said, to answer some of other Ian's point, the ship has sailed. They should have bought the tote. They should at least get the tote involved and bring money back into prize money, boost prize funding all across the board. They didn't. They let old Baldy Betfred get it, and it's just. I mean, just idiocy. I mean, they've got so. I mean, Lorne Malvo made a point, I think, a few weeks ago on the show about the jockey club rooms. They've probably got a painting on the wall in the jockey clubs, probably worth about 50 million. There's paintings on the wall. It's like they're draped in cash, but they're getting cash skin, and now they're in the back pockets of every single bookmaking chain going, and we're at the mercy, I'm afraid, of the bookmakers, as you can tell with the race times, as you can tell with the future product coming up, which is the twilight meetings on a Sunday, on a Sabbath. We're going to be starting racing at 3:30 and finishing at 7 p.m. on a Sunday, thanks to Sky Bet's initiative. Oh, it's a wonderful initiative. We all need 3:30 p.m. on a Sunday till 7 p.m. racing. I mean, what on earth is this sport coming to? But sorry, Ian, there's no good news on here. Right, final question before we get on to the meat of it, because we've got 11 ITV races, so it's a very busy show. Final question, Sean Griffiths, and it's a good question, this, because, like me, we all had a bit of info about Subjectivist, and he says, why did it take the kilt so long to tell everyone about Subjectivist injury? John, why did it take the kilt so long when it was common knowledge and it was all on the grapevines probably 3 or 4 days before, and finally the kilt comes on TV at Newmarket and then spills the beans? But why did it take him so long, John?
Well, let's be fair, he is the reason that God invented the middle finger, isn't he?
I think I pulled a muscle there.
Dear. Well, I mean, he's just been his usual contrary self, wasn't he? I mean, if he knows everybody's champing at the bit waiting for an announcement, he won't do it. He's as awkward as his ass, really. What are you going to say? It's just, even if he hasn't Johnston the horse, he'll Johnston the people waiting for everything else. We all know when you've been Johnstoned.
I mean, don't you think it was just a shade odd that obviously the news broke probably about 3 days before, I think. I got a text saying any anti-person advice for the Goodwood Cup as Subjectivist is likely out, and I went, not really, but thanks for the nod. But then, like you said, I mean, old Popeye's been doing it over the jumps anywhere. Like Popeyes will drift on the exchanges and all of a sudden, he's tightened that up as Popeye.
He was maybe waiting on what the vet said as well, whether he was going to get it back this year or not. I don't know, but my gut feeling is it was just being Johnston. Yeah,
Andy should probably have Johnson have spoke sooner when this was probably common knowledge, probably a long way. If the snouts are finding out 3 days before Johnston announces. Johnson will have known well before the snouts, obviously. So, should he have announced it sooner?
He probably should have, but that's, as John said, that's Johnston, isn't it? It's sort of like the kingdom of Johnston up there, isn't it? I mean, it's a bit.
He's the king of Midland.
He does run things as he wants to, I suppose. Does he have to say anything? Probably he should do. As you say, it was pretty common knowledge. I probably didn't know as early as you, Lee, but it didn't come as a massive surprise. No. I feel sorry for the horse because he's a horse I've actually followed for a long, long time now. And I thought with a better ride, it could have actually won the Ledger last year, to be honest with you. If they've actually sort of got it right out in front. It is a shame for the horse, shame for the owners, shame for the breeders as well. And he should have, he probably just wanted to come on telly and get a bit of FaceTime, didn't he? Rather than just announce it in the papers. It's always a moot point with announcing it, and you can see there are certain stables. Obviously, Henderson's always one, isn't he? With it's a bit leaky, and others are airtight. I think we probably need to. It's just an area that you get yourself into. He probably should have said something. To be fair, he did look fairly upset's the wrong word. It did look a bit sort of shaken about it. So I felt, in a way, I felt a bit. I almost felt sorry for him. There you go.
Oh, well, there you go. Like Andy feels sorry for the kilt, John. But I mean,
Only occasionally.
Yeah, but the way I saw it was that basically, I think information like that's important for punters. Do feel sorry for connections, like Andy says. I think it's a real crying shame. But I think always in them cases, there's not what is wrong with people? Can they just not say, well, we hold your bets on subjectivist because X, Y, and Z for the Goodwood Cup, that kind of thing. There was nothing from the yard. It's probably beating Deirdre up. I don't know, but anyway, we'll move on.
On Deirdre.
Yeah, I think I would as well. Actually, yeah. I think that's why he's so grumpy, John, because he even gets beat by Deirdre. But there we go. Right, we'll move on to the racing. This is where you can reach for the pink button for our selections at any point. And we're going to start Super Saturday off with Ascot because I hate Ascot. It's rubbish. There's so many. I mean, look at the rail meeting this year. What a pathetic example for racing. Is it the centre? Is it the far side? Is it the stand side? Where's the best ground? Where? What a load of rammel. I mean, this is the thing. Like I said, you start watering, and this is what you create. You create absolute, cesspits. And I thought we saw that again today, guys. I thought the rail was worth a few quid today. The stands rail, that might all change tomorrow. This is the randomness of the place. They probably end up watering just to suit themselves and make everybody look daft the day after. But anyway, we start off with the two ITV races. The 3 o'clock race is the Betfred Summer Mile Stakes, a Group 2 event, and we've got a race here where everything beats each other. Which is lovely. Super Saturday, everything beats each other. It's just, you may as well just roll the dice. Sabuska and Tilsit are currently 5-1 joint market leaders for this. Any views on this? I'll come to you, Andy, first on this.
Well, it's a mile on the round course, isn't it? I've managed to work them out. There's £9 between the lot of them on ratings. So, As you say, Lee, you might as well roll the dice on this one. It was this used to be run at Lingfield. Whilst you were sort of going back through your historical heritage handicaps the other day and deciding what they were called. It's actually been a Group 2 since 2007. But the interesting thing here is who's going to ride some of these horses, because most of the major jockeys are at Newmarket and York today. Yeah. As you say, everything sort of beats everything, don't they? You've got 3 from the Queen Anne, Sabuska, Top Rank, Regal Reality. They were 3rd, 6th and 10th behind the Palace Pier. I thought Tilsit might have a chance here. He was 2nd in the Group 1 Dispahan last time out behind a decent animal in Skeletti. He's had the couple behind him in that race. The wonderfully named Wally and Ecravane were 4th and 6th. They both won next time out in group races, admittedly in Milan and in Italy and France. And he was a dual winner last year as well. This is actually the first time he's run in Britain this year. Oh, Tilsit might have a little bit of a chance here against what are a bunch who've generally beaten each other. You almost think this should be a handicap, shouldn't you?
Yeah, you could have one of those like strange American sort of like handicap races.
Yeah.
Like where everything's sort of rated within about £4 of each other. It is a strange feel. I've got no selection. It's gin and pate for me.
It's very early in the afternoon.
Yes, and I might not even watch. I mean, which is saying something, but there we go. That's my output. So Tilsit for Andy at around the 5-1 mark. Charles Hills and Kieran Skidmark in the saddle. John, have you got anything for me for the Summer Mile?
Well, I thought Sabuska absolutely picked the bits up last time. I didn't for a minute think that justified his rating going up from 110 to 115. I mean, he was running through corpses, to be honest. I would have liked Tilsit, but as you point out there, Kieran Skidmark wouldn't be somebody I'd be too keen on following over a cliff or anywhere else, to be honest.
No.
The one I liked is the one that's been locked up in Dubai with the princess. That's Ascot. Let them down last time, and we know what happens in Dubai. So you get if you let anybody down. And anyway, it looks like he's chilled through the straps, got himself back over here. Pat Dobbs wouldn't be a bad booking for a man to negotiate round the round mile. Appleby horse is remaining reasonable form. I think 8-1 is pretty decent, given that the likes of Regal Reality probably want it rattling fast and loads of pace to run at. This seems adaptable. I think 8-1 is fair value each way.
Okie dokie. I mean, obviously disappointed behind Lord North last time, but was previously third to Lord Glitters in the Grade 1 at Maidan back in early March. That's that. Been well back that 12s into 8s. Bit of a move for that. So the Appleby team feel that Alsa Hale's in good order there. So that's Alsa Hale for John, Tilsit for Andy, and for me a sit out. But I will say I did watch Sabuska at Longchamp on its penultimate start, and it was just an absolute farce of a race for a horse that likes to come from the back. Any view on Sabuska, guys? Do you think the round track will suit that horse? I'm not so sure, because I think it's better probably off a straight track, finishing off a strong pace.
That's what put me off it. I thought it's much better on a straight track. As John said last time, going up £5 for that could be a bit beyond him. He's not exactly, I know he runs well here, but he's not exactly a winning machine here. He picks up, it's always one of those horses who seems to pick up a lot of pieces.
Yeah.
He's won one race here, which seems to stick in everybody's mind at Ascot, and been beaten here 4 times, admittedly in decent company, but he's almost one of those they've run to pick the pieces up. Can't blame them for doing that. They've picked up a fair bit of money, but it's not done an awful lot for his rating, is it?
No, so straight track horse, I think, for us is Sabuska. I think that's the problem. He's going to get.
Same could have done with him at the Euros. Actually, he's just a bloody good sweeper, isn't he?
A sweeper upper, yeah. Right, we move on to the 3:35 at Ascot. It's the second race on the telly. There, it's the 5 furlong Betfred Heritage. I had this. I was irate the other night because I don't agree with this. I forget name. I'm getting more forgetful as I get older. And Betfred Heritage Handicap. So it's a heritage. I would love to know the original name of this, and I think this is wrong. Bookmakers must be requesting this because, like, surely you'd just go with the Betfred, whatever the actual historical name title is, and then it helps me to remember what they actually are.
Well, Lee, I actually went back. This is the 9th running in its current guise, and when it was the first running was actually under the Betfred name, and then it's been run under the Tote Pool and Tote Scoop 6 name ever since, and Betfred. So God knows what it was before. I've got no idea. But this is the 9th running in the current guise, and it's always been bookmaker sponsored.
Listeners, if you've got any information on that, Davis might know.
He might know, but
Davis is like, when he's not studying West Ham and Michael Antonio, he's got his head in time form books from 1978, so he might find this out. Right, significantly is the 11-2 market leader. John, any thoughts on this?
Well, it's funny you should mention Davis, actually, because myself and the oldest member of the Intercity firm had a bit of a coming together on this. We were both strangely drawn to Ostilio, Paul Smidgley's. I think the reason being that we've probably both got the bloody thing in mind for the Stewards' Cup as well. But it was interesting that he's been running it mainly over 7. And yet last time out he gave it a nice sharpener over 5. Now whether this run over a stiff 5 is just to put it right for the stewards, and he possibly wouldn't want a penalty for the stewards either. So with that in mind, although I will not let him run loose because it's a absolute slash your wrists and chop your bollocks off job if he went and won, because he's about 40s. I've actually gone with my friend the Britain family and Monjamedge, who I think's got a cracking draw and will be delivered late to stop him dogging it probably. But I think given he's been running really well in these type of races, I think 12 to 1's about his price at the minute. I think
Yeah.
he's quite a solid pick.
Yeah, on the edge. I mean, obviously showed a bit of temperament. Quite tricky, but like you say, John, very talented type of horse that could end up like 3 figures. Whenever if he starts to be amenable, race properly, do things right. I see the potential in the horse, and kind of sickening when you see that Anthony Britton went to the sales on 26th of August last year and paid 4,000 guineas.
Don't you worry, Melvin's fourth born will run the temper out of this lad and eventually get him on an even keel.
Yeah, you can see the signs with this. This is it's like a slow burner. It's one of these where you can see this sort of winning in pattern company, in time. You can see it. It's just channeling that energy, if you like. So Mondamedge, John selection at 12 to 1 with a mention for Ostilio maybe in the longer term. That's a bullseye, 50 to 1. Andy, any views here?
Well, I'm going to agree with John, actually, on Mondamedge. I thought he ran a tremendous race against Chilab last time out, who hared home up the... I'm not sure it was quite a golden highway at Newcastle last time out, or he's just very well handicapped. But Mondamedge was way away over the far side. I'd never think is the place to be at Newcastle, although I'm not the greatest reader of Newcastle races. But I did think it was a good run. He was second of 14. He just didn't have anything to take him into the race. Like John, I think he's a little bit of a... hard to say he's a twicer, but he's going to need... He needs everything to drop right for him, doesn't he? There's a couple of previous winners back in this as well. Danzino's won it before, Tis Marvellous. For a big handicap, to be honest with you, there's nothing at a big price has won this. The other one I thought was Tis Marvellous for the Cox Barn. He won this off 103 in 2019. He's off 101 here. He was 4th of 8 last time out. That was his first run in a handicap since winning this. And he was 4th behind Came From the Dark, who, of course, we know was in second in the Palace House and won the Coral Charge. And King's Lynn was 3rd. And I think that form stacks up pretty well here. I'm not sure what price he is. He's about 10, 12 to 1. Tis Marvellous.
Being nibbled at best price 9 to 1 at the moment.
Yeah, I think there's been a few nibbles in that. And he's drawn 17. Again, got Mr. Shoemark on. But when you've got Super Saturday and they can only ride at one meeting these days, you've got to take what you can get. So it wouldn't totally put me off. He does like Ascot. I don't think they need any more rain there. And I think that's another thing for the listeners to watch out for throughout the evening. You're going to be on weather watch because there's an awful lot of rain around. I know he's a 7-year-old now, but he seems to be enthusiastic. And I did like that Newbury run last time out. As I say, Mr. Cox seems to have his horses in reasonable form of late. And I'd probably give Boundless Power a mention as well, even though he's up in grade. He only beat 3 last time out at Nottingham. But again, I think he's drawn the right side. And I think he's a horse who is on the up and up. So there'd be sort of almost 3 against the field: Boundless Power, Mondamedge, and Tis Marvellous. But if I had to put one up, I think it would be Tis Marvellous.
Yep, good analysis, Andy. Tis Marvellous, obviously a real course. I wouldn't call him a course specialist because he's not had multiple wins, but he does run this course very, very well. Like you say, you wouldn't want any showers. He would be at his best, on a sound surface. He
was 4th in a King's Stand on good to soft, but I'm not really sure it was that good to soft.
No, it was probably. If it's racing post going description, it was probably hard.
Exactly.
But Tis Marvellous, he's a good shout off 101. Still think he's got in him at 7. Draw 17, like we've highlighted earlier, it could be an advantage high, but with the weather and the storms or any showers, we could look complete idiots come tomorrow. But good shouts there from the guys. Tis Marvellous for Andy. Mondamedge also a good mention from John. Andy likes Mondamedge. And also Ostilio. Maybe put Ostilio in your trackers for later in the season. That's a work in progress. That's a bullseye for Paul Midgley. Right, we'll get rid of Ascot, thankfully. Awful place. And we'll move on to Newmarket. No, we'll go to York. We'll go to York first. Yes, it's the right place to go. It will leave Newmarket to last, which is obviously the principal meeting and July Cup to finish proceedings. So we go to York for the 145 race. We switch to northeast England. John Smith Racing Handicap, Class 2 Handicap, and Agile, William Haggis. That's the current joint market leader, I believe, with Jump the Gun. For this race, 19 go to Purst. John, any view in this?
Well, I think Agile is, I think he's probably a worthy favourite. The one I actually liked, though, was Eagleway of Nelly Furtado's. I've sort of had half an eye on this horse this year, and he's been shaping okay. The thing that I am interested about here is, and I'm going to roll myself out of a date here, Jane Elliott off, Jim Crowley on. I think that could be quite significant, because I think a little bit more from the saddle could help here. But I mean, he's been running all right. Ran all right off 92 last time. Hasn't been overfaced since coming over here. I mean, there's been a lot of racing in France and that prior to that, but since coming over here, I think he's just trying this fight nicely. I think 91's quite sporting.
Cool. So Eagleway for John, Ivan Furtado. Let's hope that flies like a bird at around the 9 to 1 mark. Right, yeah. We'll move on to Andy's selection and choice in this, please.
It wouldn't be the strongest, but I'm going to say I think John's been reading over my shoulder. But Eagleway, I thought he ran a very good race last time out in a race which was just just went a crawl, ended up a 2 furlong sprint, and it just wasn't the best placed. And I would agree with John that Jane Elliott, she's fair, but she wouldn't be the strongest in the saddle, and I think he just needed a little bit more encouragement. If you can remember, the first time he ran over, he ran a really good race in the Victoria Cup, and he's sort of one of those sort of mildly progressive horses, and I think he's got a fair chance in here. There's actually, strangely for York, there's only one course and distance winner in the field. That's Crowthorne, who's actually £4 below his last winning mark. Young Fire, I think I do like this horse, but I think he's going to struggle off 100, having won at Haydock last week. Jump the Gun didn't strike me as the sort to follow up really off a £7 higher mark. And interestingly, Mr. Haggis had Amethyst, who's well fancied for the Bunbury Cup, also entered in this, but he's gone with Agile, who was 4th of 7 here in May. So you'd give him a chance, but I think Eagleway's got a reasonable chance in this, in what is a typically difficult York handicap on Deal.
Good shout. So we've got John and Andy both in agreement with Eagleway for Ivan Furtado on the jockey upgrade to Jim Crowley. I did some stats on this, and right, there's an interesting thing at York, and this is massive. Mile handicaps at York with 14 runners or more. Stalls 1, 2, 3 are 33 from 282, 13 winners above expectation for a 1.63 actual over expected, and they beat 57% of runners. Stall 15 and above, 5 from 247, 0.48 AE, and 6 winners below expectation, beating just 44% of runners. It's pretty damning. You really need. I think if you. I'm not saying you can't win from a middle or high draw. I'm just saying that if you want to go to war with one, you need a low draw. And what I liked here was, and I just thought I'd give you something interesting. Lexington Knight of Hannon the Cannon. He's a serial messer. He messes about. He's been messing about for God knows how long. The ability is immense. If you just watch the Haydock run on the 27th of May, he basically says no for the first half of the race. No, I'm not doing it. No. And then finishes like the proverbial rattle past the purse, and would have won in another 2 strides. And then decided next time at Windsor he was going to do the business, and he actually got his head in front. And you could tell if you watch the closing stages, He gets his head in front and he just said, "Oh, all right then, go on." And there's so much more there under the bonnet. It's just he's just clearly just saying, well, he's a bit of a playboy, if you like. Still a colt as well. And I just felt from a really good pitch, he's the type of thing. I've seen this before in tricky horses where they'll dog it for ages and then not bother, and then all of a sudden they win a race and then they'll decide they'll win another. And it's a bit like that, and I don't know why that is. It's just I've seen it many a time. And Lexington Knight for me should be used in exotics, maybe forecasts, tricasts, place betting only. I think it's a cracking place bet only. He's better than 83, 100%, 100%. It's better than 83. I can tell you that for now. It's just whether it decides to do it. But I don't. Every race it's ran in, it's always decided to do it. It's just when it gets there, it messes about. So Lexington Knight for me at long odds, 20-1 plus. I thought it was interesting there, and it's interesting with the draw stats that obviously that also plays a part as well. Right, we'll move on to the 220 at York. It's the mile and 6 furlong John Smith Silver Cup even. That's the gin kicking in. It's number 3 gin, by the way, tonight. It's not the Tanqueray, it's number 3. Amazon deal £26 a bottle instead of the 36. Anyway, Silver Group 3 event. Hookham is the favourite at 11-4. Tongue tied for the first time for Owen Burrows and Jim Crowley. Any thoughts here? Andy, I'll come to you first.
Well, small stat, small sample size, but Owen Burrows is 0 from 8 with first-time tongue ties.
Interesting.
So, my first thought was stepping him up in trip. I mean, did he really stay in the Ledger last year? I mean, he ran a good race in the Hardwick when he was 3rd of 10.
Yeah.
But there were 1 or 2 others I preferred in this to him. I don't know what price he is on the exchange, and obviously people by nature might not be layers, but I did think anything under 3-1 was a little bit short, and there were 1 or 2 in this who appealed more. One who would appeal is Fujiara Prince, who's got a fine record off breaks. He's been off 266 days. He's won off 285 days off, 324 days off, and 362 days off. They kept him fresh for the Ebor last year after Royal Ascot, and he won the Ebor off 108 last year, and then went on to be 2nd of 8 in the Irish St Ledger over 1 mile and 6 on good to soft. He actually traded at 1.86 there for the people who like to trade, and in the long distance cup over 2 miles on soft, I don't think he quite got home. He was a good 3rd of 13. Again, he traded pretty short in that. His York form is very good, and he is actually the top rated in this at 115. I thought anywhere sort of 9-2, 5-1, which he is currently on the Betfair screen, was pretty decent value.
That is cracking analysis. Absolutely to the point. You make some very salient points there about the horse Best Fresh, good course form, the highest rated in the race. Fantastic. So Andy's selection there for Fujiara Prince, available 5-1.
And you get Mr. Azzini as well. He must be buzzing at the moment with Italy being in the final. Shame they're going to get beaten though, but there you go.
Absolutely. That is definite. So yeah, I mean, so Fujiara Prince, great selection there from Andy at 5-1. Some great reasoning there. Hope you took that in. John, come to you on this.
Do you know, I was sort of wishing we weren't doing a podcast the night before this, because each one of them races, I'm fascinated to say what actually wins it, but I don't really fancy nailing my colours to the mast with anything. I think this is a really big horse for Owen Hookham. I think he needs to be winning something like this with him, and I think there's 1 or 2 starting to ask a few questions about Owen's training at the minute, and I think he needs to knock one of these off sharpish, really. As for the race, there's 2 horses in Mr. Haggis's that I absolutely love. I'm worried about the ground for our old mate Roberto Escobar.
It depends on showers, John, doesn't it? If it stays quickening up at York today, if it stays dry tomorrow and we avoid showers, it brings Roberto into this, doesn't it?
Quick ground, I'd have been all over him, to be honest. As things stand, I can't, in all conscience, back him. I think of the others, Fujiara Prince is very, very hard to crab. Sonny Boy Liston, actually, good solid horse, never runs a stinker. should be thereabouts because he's never seen York. So you could have one of them scenarios where Irish horse comes over appearing in good form and needs a stretcher at the home turn. And the one I thought I might just chance a couple of quid on is for our favourite training duo, Ralph and Rafe. Now, when you start laughing, it was campaigned like a good horse last year. I mean, they ran this in the Derby. He looked a bit iffy, shall we say. Now, they've gelded him, so if the knackers off brings a bit more focus to his game, I think he could be dangerous. And plus, they won't give a monkeys if it tipples down tonight. I think 40 to 1 in a race that's worth watching, if nothing else. I think if you feel as though you must have a bet, you're in 2 minds, chuck a few quid at Max.
Interesting. I mean, 40 to 1 Max Vega. That's 40 to 1, blind 40.
50's on Betfred at the moment. There's only a couple of quid there, but
marvellous. Yeah, we love big prices on this show. It's
couple of other points, Lee. Roberto Escobar. I mean, that listed race he won last time out when he beat Red Verdun. I mean, that form's been franked. And just if you are playing in running, he did find an awful lot for pressure last time out. Don't be pressing the pink button if he comes under the cosh. He hit 11 last time out and still went on and won. And I wouldn't give up on Illarab yet. I don't think he had the race run to suit Ascot last time out at all. And that was his first try at that level. I wouldn't write him off.
You know, John, say that again.
Do you think he's gagging for 14 furlongs?
I just don't think he's gagging for this trip. I just wouldn't, if they bring him back in trip, I wouldn't write him off just on the basis of that run. I'm really interested to see how he goes tomorrow. If you said to me you got to back one, then it's going to be Fujiara Prince, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to you two's opinion here. I do like Andy's argument on Fujiara Prince. It's something I hadn't considered, the fresh angle. I do like that. I think it's a really good point. And Andy's also spot on when he said about Illarab last time. Don't go to town with the form necessarily with Hookham and Illarab because nothing made ground from off the pace. There was Broome was like the sort of like the furthest back, but Broome was well in front of Illarab, and that was the third place horse. Nothing made ground at all. They stayed the position. So that was my angle that I'd be just. But Hookham's on the drift, so I was thinking Hookham might be a back favourite, but obviously it's on the drift now. But great points. I think both of you made some excellent points there. And like I say, Roberto Escobar is the hidden gem, but we need to see fast ground for Roberto Escobar. I don't think he handles the slop. So if we get any showers, we don't want to be back in that. Right, we'll move on quickly to the next race on the York card that's on the ITV Racing, which is, of course, the big race of York's calendar, which is the John Smith Cup. I do love this race. A lot of good memories over time. We get a lot of good horses beating this, John, don't we? Medician, etc., etc. We get plenty beating this, some real good horses. It's just a shame more 3-year-olds don't get the chance these days to maybe tackle this race, and you know, it's maybe a sign of the times where we possibly bring in a rule where we'd probably say the top 2 3-year-olds rated that enter are allowed to run, because that adds the spice to the race. I think a lot of these big handicaps, the Ebor, they don't have the spice because the 3-year-olds can't get in, so it becomes a very congested, like, you know, eight or 9 pounds from top rated to bottom rated, where it's a bit boring. And I think the 3-year-olds did have the spice. Do you agree with that, John?
I do entirely. Yeah, it is a shame.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it. I think the race is crying out for another potential class 3-year-old that the bookies have to throw in at 5 to 2, 9 or 4. Do you bet it? You know, like Medician was. You know, Medician was like 5 to 2, 9 to 4 for the race. It's got a wide draw. It's a quandary for punters. I think that's what adds to the spice of the race. As it stands, we just get an older age handicap, in essence, a quality one, but nevertheless, it just lacks the spice of what potentially was in the older days. Anyway, we'll come to selections. Come to you, John, first on this. Astro King is 9-2 favourite for the Baron and PJ McDonald. Any view here?
Yeah, I mean, if it was rattling fast ground, which I don't think it will be, because I don't think it'll quite dry out enough. I'd have been quite keen on his chance, to be honest, because I think he'd love the trip out of a Montreal mare. But I'm all over one here, and that is Straight of Hormuz. He's back on a winning mark. Didn't handle the slop and the camber at Epsom last time. I think this has a massive chance, and my two dangers are Fishable, who I think still a very progressive horse. I think he'd have gone close at the Dante meeting, and he'd have been the choice with a better draw. And a funny one here, Johnny Drama, who has a massive chance to improve his turf rating to get close to his all-weather one. There's no reason why he can't, really, unless he's a raspberry and it can only run on the all-weather now. He's run second at York on soft off 99. He's off 98 here. And as I say, he's hardly had a chance on turf since he's had his win done. You know, so when you read back through his form, I think he's only run twice on turf since they did his win.
Yeah. Do you think Johnny Drama needs softer ground on turf?
As I say, if he's a raspberry, fair enough, he's going to bomb out, but I'm not letting him run loose. I'm backing him and Fishable to cover the Straight of Hormuz big bet.
Okie doke. Love that. Big bet, Straight of Hormuz, John, 25-1, covering Fishable for Tim Easterbay at 16s, and also Johnny Drama cover at 12s. He doesn't want to see that win, and without breaking at least level on the race. Andy, your views here, please.
I like Astro King as a horse. It just worries me that the Royal Ascot form is always... it never works here, basically. There've been plenty of horses that have come on from Royal Ascot that have bombed out in this, and I think they get backed because that sort of form is, you know, that recency of the form is there in people's minds. So it slightly puts me off Astro King, who was in the Hunt Cup, and Ade, who went in the Duke of Edinburgh. I think the key piece of form here is Surrey Pride. I'm almost wishing he wasn't drawn as wide as he is. But if you look at the draw, 9 of the last 13 were housed in stalls 11 or higher from 128 runners, and 4 from 115 were drawn lower than that. So it does edge me towards the wide, even the wider draws, which sort of flies in the face of where you would think. But they do swing wide down the home straight at York. And Surrey Pride, has he been saved for this? I think Joe Tuitt is a very, very good trainer. That course and distance win in May has been well franked. The second Macram has won since. The fourth Pivoine has won. The fifth Chichester won. The seventh Blue Cup won. And the eighth, which was John's Fishable, that's also obviously won since as well. He's no stranger to winning big handicaps at York, because he won the 2015 Abor with Litigant at 33-1 with Oshin on, which must have been one of his first big winners. So I think Surrey Pride is probably the one that I want to be with. I'm a little bit worried about the draw, but I think the draw stats give me enough on that. And a couple of others that were sort of interesting. Lucanda, although it ran an absolute shocker last time out of Royal Ascot, but I think he was drawn on the wrong side. He is 2 from 2 here. And in just a little in-running point for those who do play, don't worry if he hits a big price, because he did that in both of his wins here, 23 and 30 in both of those. And if he did stay, Hartswood has got some really good York form, but it's all at 7 furlongs. He's finished 3rd, 1st, 2nd and 3rd here. He might, if they stayed, he would be interesting, but it is a bit of an iffy one. But I think I should take Surrey Pride and row in with John's other selections as well, in what I found was quite a tricky race. And like you guys, it is just sort of almost become a fairly good class, but fairly ordinary handicap now, isn't it? It's a bit like the Bunbury Cup that used to have a bit of kudos about it. And I think if they've just sort of become fairly ordinary handicaps now. But I'll take Surrey Pride, because I do think that form from the course and distance win here in May was very, very good.
Good stuff. Great preview, Andy. So Surrey Pride at 8-1 for Joe Tweet and Paul Mulrennan. from the wide draw. Rightly says that the draw probably doesn't make much difference over the mile and 2.5. They probably go a bit hard, and there's a longer run to the bend. That's why the draw works out over the mile, because the short run to the bend where you need a low draw, but then the draw gets higher as you get up in trip, as we know with the Ebo. Obviously, wider draws are more favoured than.
I always think with draws as well. If you get horses, I mean, there's a couple of examples at Chester this evening where horses who are hold-up horses are drawn low, and they're almost forced into changing their run style because of the draw. Yeah. And it sometimes just doesn't suit them. And you think, well, if you're drawn low at Chester, the obvious thing is to go forward, and perhaps it is in this sort of race as well. But the horse just then thinks, hang on, what am I doing here? This is just not normal. And that almost sort of doesn't sort of play in their advantage. So I wouldn't be too worried about the wide draw here at all.
No, for sure. So just for me, just a quickie. I thought Dark Pine was worth a mention at a juicy 28-1. I did feel that the horse still has more to offer. If you watch the Chester run behind when he beat Fox Tal, he gave that horse probably. Well, it was great watching it. 4 lengths he made up in the last furlong and a half. He's from a good family. I don't think the yard have got the bot to the top of him yet. From Dermot Weld. Dermot Weld knew the family, and he's a very, very good family. This, and so Dark Pine, I thought, was interesting at long odds at 28-1, with Cameron Noble taking a valuable 3 off as well. One of the best £3 claimers around. Not as good as Ray Dawson, but Cameron Noble is certainly worth his 3. So Dark Pine for me. So hope you got some interesting selections there, folks. We move on to the final race at York that we're covering, which is a 440. It's the City Wall Stakes listed race over 5 furlongs. Winter Power holds the price at 2-1 with Thick Dave John in the saddle.
Yeah, this is you get out the shit race, isn't it, really? I have to confess, I've actually availed myself of some 11-4 earlier in the week about this. I was having a look at it, and I must admit I did think the ground might be a little bit wetter than it is, but I'm still pretty happy with my 11-4. Because really I had doubts over Hopalong's horse with the ground situation being as it was. But that was the only one really that I thought would possibly give us a bit of a problem. But other than that, I think this will ponce up, in all honesty.
Yeah, I mean, my view was that I felt it's a big flat 5 this, and whatever gets rolling can keep rolling over the 5 here. We've seen it many a time. So there is a bit of a randomness here, and this will be run at a stupid pace. But Winter Power for me, I did feel was the one to be on. The earlier form with Atalis Bay in the Westo Stakes, the listed race, I think that's pretty good form. Atalis Bay did win at Sandown next time, and I do think that Winter Power is the one to beat. But I'm a bit less keen at probably 2-1, 15-8, being honest. I was very keen at your 11-4 and 5-2, but now I'm less keen at the prices. But I do think this is one of these races where everything's going to burst itself. Burst on the front end. What do you think, Andy?
Perhaps John will give you a bit of his 11-4.
Not at all.
No chance of that then.
There's Fry in the basement and she'll get the scraps. I mean, it's literally like that.
Well,
what's your thoughts here?
I think there's plenty of pace. Well, obviously, there's plenty of pace on here. You've got El Astronauti, Kea Moro, Bedford Flyer, Dakota Gold, and Winter Power. Now, Winter Power got hooked up in a pace duel last time out in the King's Stand, and that's my worry again. At 11-4, I think I probably would have erred towards being a backer. At 2-1, I'm erring towards being a layer. I mean, 7 of the 11 are course and distance winners. I'm edging towards Moss Gill, who's got a very, very good York record. 2-2-1-1-3 is the full record. Won this last year with Kea Moro, Tarbouche and El Astronauti in his wake. They were 3rd, 4th and 9th. The 2nd of 11 at Haydock to Kings Lynn, who went on to be 7th in the King's Stand and 3rd in the Wokingham. Ran a cracking race in the Wokingham, to be honest with you, King's Lynn. I think that form stands up well. The only slight doubt is if that pace holds up, and you saw it a little bit this afternoon in the racing at York. There weren't a lot coming off the back, was there?
No.
That is, if that pace holds up, then undoubtedly the best of the pace forces is Winter Power. Just sticking in my mind is that pace duel that Winter Power got hooked up in the King's Stand last time out. And maybe, I'd rather chance Moss Gill at sort of 5-1.
Yeah.
Than Winter Power at sort of 2s, unless give me a bet of his 11-4, and that's not going to be likely.
It says Moss Gill at 5-1 for Andy. John's already smashed Thick Dave at 11-4, and John's got a lot of faith in Thick Dave, so that's Winter Power. Myself, I have to sit on the fence at the prices because, like I said, I'm with John at the price, but not now. John's had the value. You know, he's like that. You know, he takes it all. Takes all the prices for himself, leaves nothing for anyone else. Anyway, we'll move to the HQ fair that we've got on Saturday. Obviously, this is the main card. And, gents, I thought there was a little bit of a possible bias kicking into the far rail late on. Mick Appleby's horse in the sprint stuck like glue to that far rail. The Applebys are shrewd. And you know, nearly held on from the fast finishing Candy horse that's obviously well in. So I've just got this feeling that the far rail might be the place to be tomorrow. But then this could be all bollocks, because by the time the showers and thunderstorms come in, it could be anywhere. We could be talking complete rubbish. Anyway, we've got
all the watering cans out.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, Mr. Prosser. You know, I mean, that's amazing. He chucked it on the first night. He chucked it on last night. Surely he's not going to chuck it on tonight. Sure.
There's actually a yellow weather warning up until about 8 or 9 o'clock in the East Anglian area, and there was some localised flooding in Norwich. So whether they get away with missing it all or not is another matter.
Interesting. And you know, when you're doing these podcasts, you know, you always try and give punters the best info, but at the same time, it is quite difficult because we don't know what ground we're dealing with. Right, so we've gone to the 205. It's the Bedford Lodge Hotel and Spa Fillies Handicap, a Class 2 event, and the favourite is Samut at 100-30. John, any views here?
Well, Samut was a bit of a revelation to me last time on the slop at Ascot, because I didn't think there was any way she'd go through that. I mean, she's only a little bit bigger than a Labrador as well. So I'm not inclined to be too interested in the 100-30 about her. My initial thought was to get the patty out the fridge and let the dog in for 10 minutes. But then I stumbled across Rising Star of Marco Botti's. And when you take the kids' allowance into account, this is running off 8 here, which I think is a very fair mark. Draw's not too bad in 8. And I think that's a little bit sporting in a race that looks probably harder than trying to bang Mrs. Kamani.
So you think you're thinking Rising Star at 28?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Churchy in the saddle taking the 5 off.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. So that's John with Rising Star at 28 for the fillies handicap. Andy, you any views in this?
Nothing particularly strong. I do like King Mania as a horse. Looks progressive, off a career high mark of 86. Like John, I was a bit surprised by Samut's run in the Sandringham last time out. Went up £3 for that. It wasn't a bad run, in fact, if you consider her track position at the time as well, which was away from the well, it wasn't exactly a golden highway, was it? But it was the golden slop on the stand side. A token selection would be King Mania, but I haven't got any pate in the fridge, but I might be going to put the kettle on at that point.
Yeah, I actually like one in here, but I would like it to remain possibly on the quick side, and that's obviously not guaranteed. Spirit of Bermuda for Willie Haggis and Tom Marquand at the 8-1 mark. This was one of my better bets on Saturday. This horse was ran against Bull Ace and the likes of Crossford in a very, very good handicap at Newmarket on reappearance. Got tired in the closing stages. The official going description was good to firm. It wasn't. It was very loose on top, and it was probably slow-sided good at that time when they run that race. Now, if you watch that race, Spirit of Bermuda was right there inside the final furlong, got tired late, then refused to race. This filly's had a problem with the stalls. And then, so they took her to Leicester last time out, and she absolutely bolted up. I mean, bolted up. And the in-running prices were funny. She got a Betfair SP of about 4.9. As soon as she come out of the lids, she was like 6-4 after 50 yards. And I kid you not, I was looking for a price, and she was 6-4, and she absolutely bolted up. She's definitely well enough 86. She has got a stall aversion, so that's the problem. You know, you might be sat there, you know, with the old Hamlet advert, you know, where, you know. You know, you can remember the music, you know, when she's sat in the stall. So that's the problem. But 8-1, I think I'd take a chance because you won't get that in running. She pings the lids again. She'll be about, I would say, about a 3-1 chance after a couple of furlongs. Well, that's if in running punters are clued up. So that's Spirit of Bermuda for William Haggis would be my choice. Right, we move on to the 240 race, the next race on ITV, and it's the Bet365 mile handicap, and a very, very well bet favourite here. This reminds me of a bit of Baid, where you're betting potential over proven. Royal Fleet heads the market at 6-4. Andy, I'll come to you first.
It wasn't a race. I had 3-year-old handicaps. Usually races I try and avoid, but I worked his mark back, and 94's, whilst it's not lenient, it's not going over the top. I mean, both his novice wins have worked out exceedingly well. When he defied a penalty last time out on his return at Yarmouth, okay, he was expected to win. He was 15-8 on favourite, but the 2nd, 3rd, and 7th have all won next time out. The 7th actually won a handicap off 71. If you do a bit of COD handicapping, it makes 94 a reasonable mark here. I thought if I was going to do anything in here, I might be just fiddling around with trying to lay latest generation, but he's gone a little bit too big for even for my taste these days. He's back versus his own age group. He split 2 older horses last time out, but he didn't travel well in the race, and he didn't settle early either, which usually send the price skyrocketing. It didn't look to be an awful lot of strength in depth in this, did there? Was it Cahill? Hasn't really got any turf form. Quader was beaten off 99, which looks a harsh mark when he was 7th in the Britannia last time out to Perotto, who's favourite, admittedly, for the Bunbury Cup later on. It didn't look the hardest task for Royal Fleet, and whilst I wouldn't be steaming in at 6-4, I don't think I would be laying him at that price either, especially with Mr. Appleby in pretty decent form at the moment.
Good stuff. John, you thoughts on this?
I don't like the favourite. I think it's a nice horse. The one I'm interested in is Cahill of the Jagged Chirps. The reason I like it, really, the half-brother managed a racing post rating of 96. That one was trained by Willie Muir. So I tend to think Mr. Haggis can probably eke a bit more out of this one. I think there's the potential there for this one to race higher than it is at the minute. Also, what I did notice, the Sheikh Ahmed Al Maktoum crew had 2 in this, and the other one was the Roger Varian house that won its maiden at Leicester. Name escapes me at the minute. Beat Thayer of St Michael Stouts and pulled about 11 length clear.
Yeah.
The second run in Novice Company probably came on it a bit quick and it struggled on. But I would have been quite fancying that if they'd brought that in. I think the fact that Mark Wand was jocked up for this very, very early on what's a busy weekend for Haggis, I think this could be the one that's possibly going places for him. I think this is his significant runner today. And I think 72 is just about on the cusp of me getting my feet wet.
Okie dokie. So Cahill interests John for Willie Haggis, Tom Marquand at 7-2. Thinks there's more to come. Obviously, Willie's very shrewd. Andy references Royal Fleet, probably like he says, the value's probably been eked out the horse, but he's not a layer either at 6-4. Obviously, a very smart prospect. My interest in the race has ended because the Kilts horse, Carter, I was interested in at sort of anti-purse prices at 12-1, thinking, the way the Newmarket rides usually, Johnson will just bang it out. And bearing in mind, there's only 7 runners.
Ascot, didn't he?
Well, look, I was right with Sir Ron Priestley. That's how they got Al-Azi beat, and the same again here. I mean, you've got Carter that'll just basically from stall 7 bomb out against that far rail, and that it's a problem. But there's a squeeze on the price. It's like now 5-1. You've 78-year-old Joe in the saddle, flapping away inside the final furlong. It's not good viewing. It's X-rated viewing, in fact, especially when you see Royal Fleet on its quarters. Then so my interest is finished. So I agree with you, chaps. I think it's kind of probably about rightly priced at the moment as it stands overnight. So we'll move on to the 3:15. It's the 7 furlong race, the Bet365 Superlative Stakes, a Group 2 contest where Debab, the unlucky horse in the Coventry, really finished 6th. Frankie Dettori takes the mount for John and Slim at 9-4. John, I'll come to you first on the Superlative.
Yeah, I think it's lovely that John and the real Slim Thady have reneged on there. Well, this one is Rab's ride, and we're sticking with Rab wherever possible. Well, Rab blew it, didn't he, in the Coventry, so he's off.
Yeah.
Rightly so. Probably to the great relief of Poseidon Thoroughbred Racing. But I can't be with this at 9-4. I mean, its chance is obvious. The one I like here is actually for the Screaming Kilt. I thought Austrian Theory did it really well on debut at Doncaster, and I liked him physically, and I think a lot of these that are going up in trip will be arsing about playing jockeys. And, just take a lead this and just drop him in, all the rest of it. And there's no substitute for experience in those cases. When you've got 97 years of experience in the saddle, picking the lids and jumping out, bagging the rail, and quick minute up 3 out, and the rest of them are playing after you, Claude. I think this is massive value, actually, at 18-1 for the poor fella who has had such rotten luck this week with Subjectivist. So I would actually quite like to see it win as well, because I think he's quite a nice bloke, actually.
Yeah, it's a shame he's got him with a kilt, but Austrian Theory for John and Flapper Joe at around the 18-1 mark for the Superlative. Andy, your thoughts on this, please?
I'm going to go Godolphin, but I've got a feeling that the second string might outrun his price here in Private Signal. I quite like this horse, actually. And it strikes me as a real improver. And I don't think he should be as big a price as he is against his stablemate, and as big as he is here. I mean, he's looking sort of 12-14-1 on Betfair is what I'm looking at the moment, and I think that's overpriced against his stablemate. The stable are going very, very well at the moment. Debab at the price I can afford to leave alone. Mr. McCann I thought was given a race at Haydock last time out, but they all fell asleep and just gave him an easy lead. Yeah. I think Godolphin pair, but don't discount the white cap here. With the Doiler on board, or one of the variation, or one of the Doiler variants, as we must call them now. Perhaps we should go. Are we allowed to call them that? Perhaps we should give them Greek alphabet names. I'm not sure what James would be. I'm not sure what J is in the Greek alphabet, but maybe we can find out. But I think in a race where I'm not a big 2-year-old punter, but Native Trail and Private Signal, they've done. They traditionally do well at this meeting in the maidens Godolphin, and they did today. They had a 1-3 today in the first race. Nice horse that won the first race today. I've immediately forgotten its name. Noble Truth. I think they had a 1-4 in fact. But I think Native Trail and Private Signal. I think Private Signal is just a little bit overpriced priced at the moment. And of course, you'll get a feeling for the Chesham and the Coventry form here. Great Max and Masakela were third and fifth in the Chesham, and Dabab was sixth in the Coventry. But I'll stick with the boys in blue, who are having a pretty decent season, but it would just be a very small investment for me in a 2-year-old race.
Indeed. Good selections there. Native Trail, Charlie Appleby, William Buick, currently at 3-1. Andy also likes Private Signal at long odds with a Doyler at 14-1. Native Trail obviously will come on a lot for the first run. Did have a big round action, I felt, at Sandown. So if the ground was still riding very quick, I would be a little bit concerned for Native Trail. Very round action, I felt. So any juice. If the rain falls that afternoon, guys, Native Trail I could even see starting a heavily backed favourite. I know it's by Oasis Dream, but the round action for me says that one's cut. Just at a long price, I'm lacking a few long prices tomorrow. Papa Cocktail of Tom Clover's, Jack Mitchell, might not be good enough to win, but basically he's ran 2 perfectly good races. Third in a very solid Yarmouth maiden behind New Science. The second horse, Reach for the Moon, of John Goslin's, ran second in the Chesham. Shaped very well that day. I thought he was very brave to go for a gap at Haydock last time. I like that. The gap didn't open behind Red Power for a while. He found the gap. He strode on nicely. And I like him. I like him physically. He's by Churchill. Coolmore will be watching this closely, hoping for a result there. And I just felt Papa Cocktail at 16-1 was very, very big indeed. I certainly wouldn't go that, because I expect him to be in the 3 or the 4, and I'll be playing him in the long places on the exchanges. Right, we move on to the 350. It's the Bunbury Cup, the 7 furlong Bunbury Cup, famous handicap. Heritage handicap. This, in fact, Bet365 have actually called this the. It's not the Bet365 handicap over, so it's the Bet365 Bunbury Cup. Thanks, Bet365. You remind us it's the Bunbury Cup. 9-2 Perotto is the favourite. Andy, I'll come to you first on this.
Well, it's a 3-year-old. Don't get many of these in heritage handicaps, do you?
No,
We've got 2. We've got 2. The last, well, it was 1 last year. The last placed 3-year-old. In the Bunbury Cup actually was trained by the Kilt.
That's disappointing, John.
2018, but there haven't been many since 2014. If my maths is right, there's only been 5 3-year-olds have actually run in this, and the best placing was the second with Sir Dancelot back in 2017. He turned out to be a decent horse, and 2014 the 5th was Urtijal, but they're the only 3-year-olds, and we've got 2 this time. Perotto is actually £5 well in. The vagaries of handicapping here. If you want to work back through this, he's actually pretty well handicapped. He got raised £2 for a short-head victory at Goodwood in early June. Then they framed the weights for this. The penalty got him into the Britannia, which had already closed, and it means that he's actually only now £2 higher than he was at Ascot. But again, there's not that many winners from the Royal Meeting have followed up. In fact, the last one in this was back in 1986, a horse called Patriarch for our older listeners. I quite like Fundamental in this, the other 3-year-old. Interestingly, he's actually £6 well in. 2 of the and he ran well in the Jersey. He was 5th in the Jersey last time out. Now, 2 of the 3 winners, age 3, ran in that group Royal Ascot group race before taking this off 101 and 102. He's rated 100, as I said, and he's shown some promise in stakes races earlier. He actually comes from a Group 1 winning family, and interestingly enough, he's entered in 2 Group 2s in the near future. So whether that's just a little bit of a pointer, I'm just having a look to see where he's actually drawn.
14.
Yeah, it should be okay, shouldn't it? If we think that far side is going to hold up. There's a few others in this that you could give chances to. Mutakael, who won this last year of 105, he's up 109. I should mention that Richard Farney's got a good record in this race. He runs 3. He's doing a kilt, but a blanket bombing them. National League, Gabriel the Wire and Tadlil, none of them have won for ages really, but you should mention those. And I thought one at a big price was Caribana. who has been running well and got drawn on the wrong side in the Buckingham Palace in the slot last time out. I think that one could run quite a big race at a main price. The one I would avoid, who should be relatively short in a big handicap, is Roger Varian's horse, Jumeirah Bay. He's got a penalty, and since 2000, Roger Varian horses penalised in handicaps are 2 from 23. It's sort of very much statistically poor, shall we say. And he's had a few beaten up at short prices, so I'd be a little bit negative on Jumeirah Bay. But there's all sorts of horses. I'm sure Kimmy 5 will run well, but he always seems to run well and not do anything. And then you've got horses like Rising Sand, Old Cliffs of Capri, who I'd quite like to see win, but an Amethyst as well. But that stall 1 could be the wrong side. So I'll take Fundamental on the fact that maybe they think he's a better horse than he is. And at bigger prices, Caravana is certainly one I'm going to keep an eye on.
Cool. So Fundamental at 15-2 for Andy with the entries in the Group 2 as his angle there, like obviously better than a handicapper. And the Richard Hughes horse, Caravana, at a nice price of 28-1. If you fancy following Andy's selection there. John, your thoughts here?
This is a very hard race. This is probably on a par with writing a letter to Kylie detailing what you're going to do with a shopping trolley and half a gallon of Swarfega and expect that. I have managed to dig one out here, which is Rich of Richard Spencer's at 40-1. This has had some funny rides, actually. We've had Angus Villas up top 3 times out the last 6. And it ran away with Early Turner, Hales, in the last race at Ascot that it ran in. Mr. Levy, very much the in-form flavour of the month after today. I think this will get a better ride here. Even the trainers, in his comments in the post, he said he's been a bit unlucky this year. He said it didn't pan out for him when he ran away with Haley. I suppose that's one way of saying it didn't pan out for him. So I'm going with that one. I would just point out as well, Andy's selection, Fundamental. The real Slim Theory has a lot to learn here. Rather than using the comment section of the post to detail a litany of problems that the horse has had and what a faithfully good trainer he is to even get the horse here, he has actually said that he'd probably be in business if it doesn't piss down, which is far, far too helpful to us punters. I'm sure his father will be taking him to the woodshed as we speak, giving him a bloody good spanking.
Class output, John. Yeah, love it. So, Revich for Sean Levy, the man of the moment, 40-1 for John. Andy obviously mentioned Fundamental, as I mentioned. For me, it's Peyton Gin. I will say, though, there's no pace forecast. I don't know if you've looked, guys. There's no pace whatsoever forecast for the Bunbury Cup. Nothing goes forward. They're all going to play jockeys. Some idiot will bag far rail at 80-1 and make all. That's my prediction. So we move on to the 425, which is our final race, thankfully, if you're still here and listening. It is the Darley July Cup, the very big one of the day. And Starman is the very well-backed favourite at the moment at 4-1 for Dead Walker and Tom Marquand. Any of you here, John, on the July Cup?
Wow, yes. Fantastic race. Really. Really good July Cup, I think.
Yeah.
I can't have Oxted because that would mean I was wrong at Ascot. And I'm convinced he benefited from the collapse of all collapses of the pace in that King's Stand. I know he was well backed and all the rest of it, and as though they were expecting a return to former glories. But honestly, I'm not convinced. I think he's run through corpses at Ascot, and I think this lot are a bit tasty. You know, I think Dragon Symbol's bloody good. I think Creative Force looked fantastic in the jersey. I was really impressed with him. They won't give up if it rains, either of those two. You know, it's an absolute ripper of a race, really. And I think what I'm probably going to do, I'm going to bet Creative Force and save on Dragon Symbol.
So the 3-year-olds, I mean, to be honest, that's my angle. I'm basically saying the 3-year-olds the 3-year-olds this year in the sprinting division are better than the elders. I'm certain of it. In fact, I'm so certain of it that as long as something gets the run of the race of the 3-year-olds, a 3-year-old will win it.
It's sounding like Rolf Harris. I'm liking 3-year-olds as well.
Yeah. I mean, Rohan for me gets a perfect toe in again on that far rail.
Can we say that win though?
Lot of pace. The problem is Newmarket. It's not Ascot. It's not, it's Newmarket. You can't get behind. I mean, literally, if you get that far behind, you're not going to make that ground up if it stays fast. And these are all the quandaries that we don't know yet. But
do we want Rohan to win though? I mean, he shoved it up our asses with that, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, look, the current owners are fine. Chris Kiley Racing, and obviously Dean Kiley, the goalkeeper. That family is great. The previous owners were absolute shithouses. Obviously, stopping it at Lingfield with Dara Keenan getting a misjudged ride ban when clearly it was just bloody stopped. But what can you do? It's look. I mean, some would say, but I even said boo them in after Ascot when everyone was saying, what a wonderful performance this was. But anyway, I think a 3-year-old will win it. I'm sorry I can't be more direct than that because I don't know how the track will ride. I don't know where the place to be. Well, it should be far side, which will be against Dragon Symbol and Creative Force, but Rohan should get a towing. But then it might play out totally different tomorrow if we get showers, etc., etc. But I think the 3-year-olds are superior to the elders. Andy, over to you to finish this rather long show off.
Well, it will really boil everyone's piss if Rohan wins, won't it? I have a particular soft spot for this horse, partly because he's done me 3 real favours this year and given me a bit of kudos as well, because I do write the one little bit of writing I do these days is for Paul Jones's site, who I've known for a long time. I write a column every week called Beating the Bias, which is doing very, very well. I've written for 5 years. It's basically horses run over pace bars, a bit like the old Jimmy Lindley bit that you boys do. But maybe sometimes a little bit more. But Rohan, I shoved in after he was 5th in that handicap with Jumbie, expecting him to win another handicap, and I've followed him ever since. Of course, he's then gone and won at Haydock and etc., and just really surprised. Like you, Lee, I really do. I sort of the current connections, great. Let's take that out of it. He's got a real profile that reminds me of Harry Angel in this.
Yeah.
And it would have been fascinating to see him in the Commonwealth Cup. Again, we don't know how it's going to work out. That's my one thing when I saw this race, and I agree with John. Fantastic race. You thought the Falmouth was a fantastic race to that, and I don't normally get that excited about flat races, to be honest with you. Anyone who knows me is, 3-mile handicap chases I get excited about, but flat races I can sort of take or leave. But this is, if there's one race, if somebody said you could watch one race tomorrow, this would be it. I think it's a fantastic race. Starman is going to need it not to rain, but there's got a good chance. But at the price now, 4-1, I'm not completely convinced. Oxted, did he benefit from that pace collapse last time out? Since 1985, there's actually been 16 King Stand winners have been beaten in this race. Horses like Last Tycoon, Sheikh Albadoo, Locksong, Pivotal, Choisir, Soul Power, and Blue Point. So there's been a few good ones, and there could be a pace war, which might suit him. It might not. We don't really know. Dragon Symbol was a bit, I thought he was a little bit unlucky at Ascot when he got, booted out for Campanale. I'm going to stick with Rohan, but I must admit it's heart ruling head there, but I am going to stick with him because I really would like to see him win. And but any of those 5 in single figures on Betfred at the moment are fantastic. And the 3 and 5 year olds have dominated. We've actually only had one 6-year-old. 6-year-olds and older are 1 from 71 since 1997. So you are taking a little bit of a risk back in those at the moment. But heart ruling head, I'll go Rohan again and hope that there's everything goes lickety split and he can whiz past them coming up the hill.
Good stats there from Andy. Good about the 6-year-olds there. Well, lovely to see research like that. So yeah, we're all about the 3-year-olds. We like the 3-year-olds, like Rolf Harris. Me, Andy, and John love the 3-year-olds. So that's a suitable note to finish. We hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you back some winners tomorrow. Myself and John are back on Sunday to chew the fat earlier than normal. We're producing the sermon at midday on Sunday because obviously of a certain matter of a certain football game on the Sunday evening. No one wants it around that time. I'm sure you've got other better things to do that day. So hope you enjoyed the show. It's bye from me, John and Andy. Bye for now.